Mobil One The Grid gets underway with a trip to Mexico as Sergio Perez reveals what makes his home country the perfect destination for Formula One. Checo Perez is an icon back home in Mexico, and in the upcoming Grand Prix, the Oracle Red Bull Racing ace is hoping to reward his fans with victory in Mexico City.
It's an amazing Grand Prix. I think that the people really make it very special. It's really nice to be able to come here and get to drive this place. It has a lot of heritage in the blood of our Mexicans, so it's really nice, and I cannot wait to drive here again.
Show runs in his home country have been a great opportunity to celebrate with the fans after podium finishes in the last two Mexican Grand Prix.
It's really special, you know, because I get to see a lot of people that generally are not able to come to the race, so I'm very lucky to have so much support back home, and it's super nice to be able to give back to the people. The last 2 years I've been on the podium, third place, so I look forward to improve that this year, further 2 steps.
The 33-year-old shares a deep passion for his country and its culture. A proud Mexican, Checo makes a perfect tour guide. But when talking about home, there's only one city that counts.
Guadalajara, because I live there, and because we have great food. People is very friendly, weather is really nice. It's just a great city in general. And if you want to go to the beach, it's only a 3-hour drive. I mean, I'm a beach guy, you know. We have great beaches in Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, Acapulco. I think in Mexico you will be amazed with what we have. And then you should try Lucha Libre, and it's really nice because it represents a lot of our culture. I put my mask on and I go to Lucha Libre, and it's good because you can shout to all the wrestlers and no one knows who you are.
When the race gets underway, Checo will be the center of attention as he aims to extend Red Bull's run of 4 wins in the last 5 Grand Prix at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
I think it has worked for us well. We have a good car in low speed sections. Also, the altitude doesn't seem to hit us so much on our engine, so there are a few things that play in our advantage, but generally we've been really strong in Mexico.
While ending Max Verstappen's run of back-to-back Mexican wins will be difficult, Checo has 2 top tips when it comes to the best seats in the house for those passionate supporters.
I think it will be nice to see me win the race from turn 1. It will be nice because you get to see the start and the cars arrive at a very high speed. And then for us all, it's very noisy, you know, with all the fans, all their adrenaline going there. Actually, when I go slow there on a formation lap or a slow lap, I can hear them, you know, in the car. And I know they're really excited. To get that victory will be a massive dream come true. It's one of my biggest dreams in the sport.
Next up, we join Kevin Harvick to relive his very first win in the NASCAR Cup Series.
From F1 to World Rally, sports cars to IndyCar, all of the stars have fond memories of their maiden victory. But for 23-year NASCAR veteran Kevin Harvick, it was the most pressurised beginning to his career in the Cup Series. The death of 7 times champion Dale Earnhardt in 2001 meant Harvick was asked by boss Richard Childress to step into the shoes of a legend.
Being Dale's replacement is something that, for me at 25 years old, probably didn't have a perspective on the magnitude of the situation. I think as you look back on it now, there was a lot of room for failure there, and you were walking a pretty thin line. But all you wanted to do was get the cars back to the racetrack, get the people back to the racetrack, and make sure that you did your part in making sure RCR Racing still existed when we got to the end of the 2001 season. Because I think Richard losing his best friend, knowing what Dale meant to the sport, there was no telling where that went.
With the loss of Earnhardt, the famous number 3 car was relabeled the number 29, and Harvick was thrown into battle in the top category. Just 3 races in, his career-defining moment came at Atlanta.
My first race win was still the most intense, most pressure-filled situation that I'd ever been in. We competed under the shadow of everything that happened with Dale.
Here comes Harvick. Harvick the leader. Harvick eased it into 3 to get a good run off 4 and it got him the lead.
For me, I had already worked with Dale's team. I had already been doing the testing for Dale, so I knew all the guys on the team. So going to the racetrack, as awkward as it was with everything that happened to Dale, it was no big deal to put my seat in the car. It was no big deal for me to be driving Dale's car for those guys. For everybody else outside of the car, it was a big deal. because of the fact that you're driving Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s car and you're on Dale Earnhardt's team and you're doing all the things that Dale was supposed to be doing. But for me, I didn't really know any better.
Kevin Harvick trying to become only the 5th driver in NASCAR history to win in only his 3rd Winston Cup start.
And I know Richard Childress has got to be jumping up and down with joy right now, no matter what happens.
And somewhere, too, must be Dale Earnhardt, because this is his car that Kevin Harvick is driving. The paint is different, the number is different.
Victory in Atlanta was hard fought. Jeff Gordon, already then a 3-time champion, breathing down his neck at the end of the race.
We had a photo finish here last race. We're getting ready for another one, folks. Gordon's going to make the big move on the inside. Here he comes. He's going to drive it to the bottom.
Oh, Harvick's leaving a lot of bottom.
This slow car is going to be in the way.
Just like a year ago, he's going to get him, though. He's going to get him. Gordon got loose. It's Harvick.
Harvick by inches. Harvick by inches. Harvick by inches. What a race. Harvick, you got him.
6/1000ths of a second.
I can remember it like it was yesterday. To win that first race was incredible. You know, I mean, for race fans all over the United States and all over the world that were Dale Earnhardt fans, and for him to go out there and that team to go out there and to win, especially by the margin that they won by, with it being so close, it was a knock it out of the park moment.
I remember how loud the crowd was, the people hanging on the fence on the backstretch.
Somewhere up there, I think Dale's smiling.
And Dale is jumping up and down right now. Good job, guys.
What could be more fitting? What could be more special?
It wound up being the single biggest moment in my career, and that weight that that moment had and those lessons that you learned in those particular times just carried over to the rest of my career.
Technology now as we take a close look at a champion World Rally car.
2022 signalled a new era in the World Rally Championship as hybrid power hit the stages for the first time. With a second straight title success, Toyota's GR Yaris Rally 1 represents the WRC's most significant technical overhaul for a generation.
There was a couple of aspects which were all brought in at the same time for 2022. Probably the first one being the hybridization, so a move from internal combustion engine alone to adding an electric motor to create a hybrid system in the car. So this was a really important step forwards for the sport. The next step was really to create a bespoke safety cell for the crew inside the car. And to do this, the regulations for the chassis would need to change. And so the Rally 1 car is now with a bespoke space frame chassis, which includes an FIA safety cell inside.
The new hybrid regulations utilise a common manufacturer shared hybrid unit, which Toyota engineers coupled to the Yaris's existing 1.6-litre turbocharged engine.
An important element was also, of course, to keep the cost and the development of the cars to a reasonable level. So in 2022, we were running exactly the same engine as we left the 21 season and integrating the hybrid motor to that. The hybrid system is a 100 kilowatt motor and it's coupled to a 3.9 kilowatt hour battery. So a relatively small battery, but quite a powerful motor. The reason behind that is that we're using it as a boost system rather than a continuous drive system. So the driver is able to deploy energy from the battery via the motor and create a boost down the straights. Coupled with the original engine, at times we're able to deploy over 540 horsepower. So at its maximum, it's a pretty impressive acceleration.
Out on the stages, drivers have adapted to the demands of deploying and regenerating the hybrid energy in the heat of competition.
Regeneration working in much the same way as a hybrid road car that many people will be familiar with. So during the braking phase, we're able to regenerate via the same motor, which is recharging the battery and also linked to the strategy of how much energy you're allowed to deploy. So the amount of energy which you can regenerate is linked directly to the amount of energy which you're then allowed to redeploy.
A simpler suspension and a 5-speed gearbox have reduced the overall complexity of the Rally 1 Yaris. Although it retains an aggressive rear wing, simpler aerodynamics have also increased the focus on driver skill.
Toyota in 2017, we already came with a very aggressive aerodynamic package in the beginning and developed that over the 5-year period to a point where our final car was really quite extreme in terms of the number of devices on the surface, making a very complex vehicle that had cost and development implications. So moving into the new regulation, the FIA and the manufacturers decided to tighten up on what kind of devices are allowed, and that really is the driving factor behind the visual difference that you see with the Rally 1 car, and that the surfaces are quite a lot more simplified than they were before.
Under the hood, 100% sustainable fuel feeds the Toyota's engine. It was the first fuel of its kind in the WRC and powered the new Yaris to a maiden championship success last season.
We were really happy with how the season 2022 went, with so many new elements, hybrid, chassis, aerodynamics, all being completely new. We really anticipated that the reliability would be probably the #1 factor in deciding the championship at the end. As it turned out, we also had to work a lot on the speed of the car, increasing the performance ready for this season, because of course everyone was becoming very close towards the end of 2022, and 2023 is now a big challenge.
MotoGP now as we talk riding style with KTM's Australian ace. Jack Miller has entertained MotoGP fans for 9 seasons. One of the most popular riders on the grid, he's currently in his first year with Red Bull KTM factory racing and enjoying his racing more than ever.
My favourite part of the weekend would definitely have to be the moments before the race. Getting ready in the truck, doing my stretches, or even the time sat on the grid. It's just the most unreal feeling. Everyone's been working for that moment all weekend, and now it's all about to come down and you're about to say goodbye to everybody and go to work. And that for me is the bit I love the most.
The Australian is a master of his craft, and with his physical technique, he has a riding style that's unique in the MotoGP field.
I have an older style, an older riding style in terms of the way that I move with my butt on the bike. I move the butt a lot, whereas the newer generation, it's a more upper body hanging off the side, whereas I've got the whole body sort of hanging off the side. It's just what's worked for me is sort of the way my style's developed.
Cornering is the most technically challenging aspect of bike racing, but with the KTM RC16 beneath him, there's no better rider than the 28-year-old.
If you have a stop and go corner where you're trying to veer it off, you'll try to use a little bit more real estate in the centre of the corner, trying to stop the thing as late as possible and get it picked up on the fat part of the tyre as soon as possible. For that, you want a bike, you can use both tyres to stop the bike, especially later on into the corner. You want to start being able to bury that rear brake and really squat the bike down so the suspension's pretty much loaded and almost ready to react as you want to square the corner up. And then you have a nice flowing corner where you're trying to carry the maximum amount of corner speed, so you're trying to almost settle up nice and wide, use as much real estate on the entry as possible, trying to keep the bike as calm and as stable as possible and keep that lateral grip that you can get in order to keep the turning there, but also keep that high speed up. Where you have a lot of high speed, change of directions, you're putting a lot of input into the handlebars in terms of counter steering. So if you're going right and you want to change high speed to left, the first thing you're doing is putting your foot on the outside peg to start that weight transfer. But then you're also using a massive amount of counter steer, so you're basically going opposite lock in the car. And that in turn creates the bike to want to flip over. Using that pushing and pulling motion as well as an input with the throttle, quiet squirt just to create some spin, and having that spin there, as soon as it kind of stops, it wants to stand the bike up, and you use that sort of motion to help the bike fall over to the other side. Feels like it's trying to kill you, but once you sort of understand, it becomes second nature to you. Like the bike almost feels like an extension of your body. It's an amazing sense of accomplishment to know that you were able to extract the maximum you could out of that motorcycle on that day, and it just fills you with so much joy.
With more than 150 MotoGP starts, Miller is enjoying developing the RC16 with KTM and shows no signs of hanging up his racing boots anytime soon.
When I do retire one day, I think the plan for me is always to head back to Australia, settle down there on the farm. We've got the little one on the way now, and hopefully we'll have another couple, watch them grow up. I'll find some stuff to sort of keep me busy. I'm not somebody who's just going to sit at home. And for sure, I'll always be involved in some way, shape or form of racing because I just love it that much.
It's time now to head on to the grid.
The month of September saw us hurtling towards the business end of some major championships. The first to close out 2023 was the IndyCar Series. Alex Palou secured his second title with a race to spare when he won the Grand Prix of Portland, his 5th victory of the year. In the penultimate round of the IMSA Sports Car Championship at Indianapolis, it was Porsche who topped the field with a 1-2 victory in GTP, led by Nick Tandy and Mathieu Jaminet. Just 5 points separate the top 3 teams, all from different manufacturers. Porsche, Cadillac and Acura face off at Petit Le Mans in the season finale. In the World Endurance Championship, the 6 Hours of Fuji saw another 1-2, this time for Toyota, as they secured a 5th consecutive manufacturer's title with a round to spare. The 2 Toyota GRO 10s will battle it out for the driver's title in Bahrain. The World Rally Championship provided another 1-2 for Toyota at the Acropolis Rally Greece. Kalle Rovanperä extended his lead over teammate Elfyn Evans to 33 points in the title race. A few weeks later in Chile, it was Oyt Tanak who dominated in his M Sport Ford. But in the Manufacturers' Championship, there was disaster for Hyundai as first Esa-Pekka Lappi rolled his I-20, and then Timo Sunonen hit a tree stump, leaving the door open for Evans and Rovanperä to secure the title for Toyota with 2 rounds to spare. The NASCAR playoffs are in full swing and there have been 5 different race winners. 4 of the original 16 contenders have been knocked out so far, including 2014 champion Kevin Harvick, who is in his last season in the Cup Series. At Texas, William Byron became the first driver to book his place in the final 8. It was also an historic 300th victory for Hendrick Motorsports. The following week at Talladega, Ryan Blaney and Kevin Harvick led the field to a frantic finish.
Blaney, Harvick, Blaney, Harvick. They spin behind him. It's going to be Blaney. Yes!
Harvick was later disqualified for a loose windshield, while Blaney takes his place in the last 8.
To end the show, we join 2 teams competing on both sides of the Atlantic in new machinery.
In 2023, both Cadillac and Porsche launched their dual campaigns in the IMSA Sports Car and World Endurance Championships, with cars running in both series in the Premier category.
I think it's quite unique. You know, obviously, I think you know what Cadillac has done and just the investment alone, the manufacturer support that they have, but you're racing against the best of the best. So I think it's a very special time in sports car racing to have a lot of these categories kind of combined for the first time from the US side to the European side. So to have the likes of Porsche and Ferrari and Toyota and everybody involved, you've got to do something exceptional to be in the fight for a podium.
Porsche Penske Motorsport is a big operation. We have the IMSA racing series with 2 cars and the WC racing with 2 cars. One base is in Mannheim, the other is in Charlotte. We try to learn from each other, we try to push each other, and there's a lot of work going in between and information going in between the 2 race teams, but after all we race under the same name and therefore we try to help each other as much as possible.
The WEC's hypercar category and IMSA's GTP class came together at the Le Mans 24 Hours in June, creating a bumper 16-car field that is set to grow in the next few years.
It's been too long since we've had so many cars evenly matched in the top class. It's what every fan wanted. Everyone was crying out for it, and now we've got it. The different technologies, you've got Ferrari and Toyota and Peugeot with 4-wheel drive. You've got the LMDHs like Porsche and Cadillac with just 2-wheel drive at the rear, but still with a hybrid system. And you've got some non-hybrid cars as well, so you've got a whole spectrum of technologies. Each car has its benefits, and each car is quick in different places, so exciting for the fans.
In North America, Cadillac have scored 2 victories with their new V-Series R, while Porsche got their first win for the 963 at Long Beach.
The first win of any program or any new car is massive. To get to that point where we came out with a first and a third at Long Beach, it was amazing. And we're one team, but of course we operate on 2 sides of the Atlantic. And everyone involved saw the progress of the program which is inexorably linked together from both sides. And it was great. It gives a boost to everyone to know that we've got to a point where we can operate the car and the team on a level to go out there and win against the best of the best.
Porsche has scored 2 further wins in North America, but for them and for Cadillac, the WEC has been a tougher nut to crack, up against Le Mans winners Ferrari and manufacturers champions Toyota, whose hypercar program had a 2-year head start.
It's good to see the team has already won in American Post. In the WC we haven't won yet, but we're working hard and hopefully we can beat the Toyota and the Ferrari and the Peugeots at some point. It's a tough competition, but we have the motivation and the dedication to go forward and hopefully be the strongest team at some point.
We've built up a completely new European team. We've been learning race by race, but I really feel we've got a great rhythm in the team. We've got a great vibe, and I think those races that we did struggle in have made us stronger as a group and as a team to keep pushing and working. So now I think it's sort of our moment.
For both Cadillac and Porsche, the pace of development has been accelerated by constant collaboration and data sharing between their WEC and IMSA operations, as both championships now head into their season finales.
This is a unique global setup because we share information between both. Like I remember when we went to Laguna Seca and we tried a different concept on the setup, straight away, as soon as we had the feedback, that was already on board with the European crew and team. And it's the same way, the other way around. It's a unique process, sharing setups, sharing knowledges, system updates, and I think it's working pretty well.
We've had a common platform, obviously, on communication stuff. We all use WhatsApp to just kind of debrief the sessions, what's going on in the simulator, and what's worked, what's not worked. And it's been essential because the development process of the car has been super rushed. The car hit the ground for the first time in race circumstances at Daytona in January. So there's been like drinking out of a fire hose, really. And honestly, since the car hit the track in July last year, it's been a lot of work for the technical team, but it's been pretty fun for all the drivers.
Next time, we're at Road Atlanta for Petit Le Mans and meet F1's dominant Dutchman Max Verstappen. See you then on Mobil 1 The Grid.